Welcome to this episode of the Soy Checkoff Check-In. I'm your host, Chip Flory. Carla Schultz is a third-year farmer leader serving as the chair of the Communication and Education Committee for the United Soybean Board. Schultz grows soybeans, corn, wheat, dry beans, and hay. She also raises cattle and hogs in Michigan with her husband and her parents. Carla, welcome to the Soy Checkoff Check-In.
Glad to be here.
You bet. Let's talk about the Checkoff's Communication and Education Committee. What are its role and focus within the Checkoff?
Sure, that's a great question. I know one of the big things that we want to do is to align communication to support our strategic plan, right? And that's a lot of words. And what does that all mean? Well, that means we're advancing the United Soybean Board's mission to create value for U.S. soybean farmers by investing in research, education, and promotion of U.S. soy. And ultimately, that means we're also communicating back with our farmer leaders across the country and investing those dollars appropriately.
Outstanding. So, Carla, talk about the priorities and what you hope that your committee will accomplish in the year ahead. What are you looking at?
Yeah, we're looking right to move more soybeans, ultimately, right? But we're going to prioritize that into food, feed, fuel, and industrial. And a big part of that communications piece is how can we move more of those soybeans? So we look across the globe, we look domestically, and then we also look at audiences that we're speaking to. Are we speaking to our farmers across the country? Are we speaking to partners in the industry? Are we selling to new buyers across the world? So there's lots of things to look at in this piece of the committee.
Okay. Talk to me more about the educational side of the committee, Carla. What is it that you hope to accomplish there?
Yeah, I think there's a couple different sectors, right? So we're educating the farmer leaders across the country to know how are their checkoff dollars being invested. And then we also can think of it as how are we educating those that don't know about soybeans or don't know about commodities across the country as well. And that was shown in full force at Commodity Classic out in Denver. We actually I moderated a panel with Nourish the Future. And so that's implementing ag lessons in the classroom to align with STEM standards. Those think of science classes, right? Because every day there's so much in science, but you have to think of agriculture, and that aligns perfectly because agriculture is pretty much science at its best.
Yeah, outstanding. Like you said, a dual meaning or a dual effort there on the education side. When you talk to farmers about the return that they are getting for the dollars that they put into the checkoff, because the audit shows that it's such a great return, what kind of a response do you get?
Yeah, I know in my area of the world, which is Michigan, I get a really positive response, right? If we got $12.30 back on every investment we made, I think we'd all be pretty happy about that, no matter what it was. But I know a lot of my farmers in my area are happy that we have checkoff dollars and that they're being spent appropriately, because you have to think, what can my checkoff dollars do for me that I can't do? And there's so many things in our little communities that we don't have the ability to do, right? But when we give it to a larger board and we are pooling our resources and funds, it can go to such a bigger investment all across the world.
Yeah. Outstanding. It's the middle of March. Are you seeing any signs of spring up there in Michigan?
We are. I think most of the country is, right? So it's like we are so happy. It's beautiful this week, although it does turn into mud season as well. So with that comes a lot of tires that get stuck or boots that get stuck in the mud, but we'll take it. We're looking for a dry out and we're prepping our equipment.
Yeah, gotcha. You know, the diversification of your operation up there, corn, wheat, dry beans, hay, cattle, hogs. How do you decide what gets priority at this time of the year?
A lot of that, as farmers I think we would all agree with, it comes down to the numbers, right? Some of it also is rotationally cropping. In Michigan, what we have here is we have markets for these products. So that's helpful. I always say it's the M&Ms, it's the candy. What are you managing? And then what are your markets like? That M&M, and how do they go together? So right now when we're, thinking of what are we planning? How are we going to market this? We're looking at the prices, and we all know how that looks, but all this at the same time, some of that is a rotational build. So we have that dry bean market and wheat will go in. We have corn and soybeans that lends itself very well to what we have in Michigan.
Outstanding. Really cool, Carla. Thank you for spending some time with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Chip.
Absolutely. That is Carla Schultz. Carla is the chair of the Communications and Education Committee, a 3-year farmer leader for USB, and a farmer with her family there in Michigan. You can keep up with the USB by going to unitedsoybean.org. I'm your Soy Checkoff Check-In host, Chip Flory. Now, let's get back to Agri-Talk.